Started off working at my mom's house, but I'm still stuck inside my mom's house. Dreaming about 10 bands when I walk it out. Then I wake up, boy, what you talking about? You ain't never gonna catch me slipping. Just wait until you see me winning. And I'ma tell you from the jump, I just hope you listen. Homie, wait until you see me winning.
Welcome back to another edition of Absurdity Sports. I'm your host, Chase Hope.
And I'm Tex Armstreet. You're listening on 88.5 The Nest. You can hear us live 3 different ways on 88.5 FM, the OG. Online at tennesseetech.edu/WTTU. And in any of the residential halls on channel 72, thanks to our partnership with Res Life. As always, thanks for listening.
So, we've got a pretty debatable topic. In my mind, it's debatable. Tex thinks it's not debatable. And is Butch Jones comparable to John Calipari? So, in other words, is John Calipari the Butch Jones of college basketball?
That's ridiculous.
I say it's very comparable. I'm not saying John Calipari is Butch Jones, but he can be compared to Butch Jones in terms of all the talent he's had and all the success he's had. John Calipari is obviously more successful than Butch Jones ever was, but in terms of consistently living up to expectations, John Calipari oftentimes falls short.
I mean, yes, he falls short in comparison to himself as to what he can do. But as far as Butch Jones is on a completely different level of being ridiculously terrible at what he gets paid to do. And it's something that when you brought this up to me, I thought you were crazy because he's actually won a championship. So therefore, they're not comparable in my opinion. And I also don't think that John Calipari would have someone of Alvin Kamara's talent level stashed on the bench.
No, I completely agree. But when you look back at John Calipari's players, and the fact he only has one title is absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. Just last year alone, he has De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Jamal Murray, Tyler Ulis.
The best players don't always win
Well,
the
maybe not
championship.
Tyler Ulis, sorry. I'll stop there at Jamal Murray.
The best players don't always win the championship.
No, but I'm just going to give you a run-through of players, and honestly tell me if one is too low. I'll restart. De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Jamal Murray, Tyler Ulis, Karl Anthony Towns, Willie Cauley-Stein, Trey Lyles, Devin Booker, Andrew and Aaron Harrison, Julius Randle, Nerlens Noel, Anthony Davis, Marquise Teague, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Terrence Jones, Deron Lamb, Brandon Knight, John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Patrick Patterson, Eric Bledsoe, Tyreek Evans, Derrick Rose, and Marcus Camby.
Okay, but here's my question. How many of these people were on the same team together at the same time?
Well, of course they're not going to be on the same time, but
I'm just saying because you can say through all his players, but I mean, some of the greatest basketball programs have had some of the greatest players, and they've never won championships.
Okay, well, in 2009 alone, you have John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Patrick Patterson, and Eric Bledsoe.
Okay.
Anything less than a title in that year is underperforming.
Yeah, but what if these guys weren't as big as they were back then? I'm not saying they weren't. I'm just saying,
John Wall.
It's easy. Hindsight is 20/20 because, you can compare these guys now as to what they are in the NBA.
Yes, they were. And back then,
and who did they face?
That team was considered the standard. That team was what every team wanted to be in college basketball. That's how good that team was.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Just because you're the best team at something doesn't mean you always win. You know what I'm saying? Some of the better teams in sports don't win.
And like I said, I'm not saying John Calipari is Butch Jones.
I think you are.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying they're comparable in terms of the talent you've had and the player development that you've shown.
Well, how many guys?
And here's where this argument can fall short, because in basketball, Calipari only gets 1 year with the majority of his players.
Well, yeah, that too. But also, you have to look, when you say the development of players, most of these guys that you mentioned, let's see, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, a little too early to tell. Karl Anthony Towns, Willie Cauley-Stein, Devin Booker, Julius Randle, Nerlens Noel, Anthony Davis, Gilchrist, John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Patrick Patterson, Eric Bledsoe, Tyreek Evans, Derrick Rose. Those guys have all had exceptional careers in the league so far. And so you got to look, and it's the direct result of the reign under John Calipari. You look at guys that come out of Tennessee. Like you had some great guys come from Tennessee in Butch Jones' era, but not this many who are still playing at a high level.
And that's because Butch Jones can't develop talent.
And that's what I'm saying, but there's a difference there. John Calipari can develop talent. Butch Jones cannot.
Well, John Calipari has the talent. I feel like he's just rides the talent. I don't feel like he's that good of an in-game coach. Because why has he not got multiple titles? I mean, look at this alone. He takes over Kentucky in the 2009-2010 season. Well, the year before he got there, they have a number 1 recruiting class. So he inherited a great situation. 2009, number 1 recruiting class. 2010, number 1 recruiting class. 2011, number 1 recruiting class. 2012, number 1 recruiting class. And once again in 2013. And then that's 6 straight years of the number 1 recruiting class. And you don't win a title until 2012? And then in 2014, you fall to 2. You go back to 1 in 2015, and then you're at 2 in 2016, 2017. Only Duke's ahead of you in those years that you weren't number 1. And the year he won the title, that roster consisted of Anthony Davis, Deron Lamb, Michael Kidd Gilchrist, Terrence Jones, Marquise Teague, and Darius Miller. And all averaged 10-plus points per game except Darius Miller, who averaged 9.9. That is crazy for that many players on one basketball team in college basketball to average over 10 points.
I understand what you're saying, but we're living in a world right now where Loyola-Chicago might win the championship. And they're going in against a team like Villanova or Michigan or something like that. So, like, there's no saying, like, if we put this team up against Loyola-Chicago, there's no saying that this team beats Loyola-Chicago.
I know, and is that more of a fraud in the NCAA college basketball system? Everybody loves the tournament, but is a single elimination tournament like this the best way to go about deciding what's the best team? Because it falls in who's the hottest, who's hot right now. Because Loyola-Chicago's hot. They're one of the hottest teams in the country, but I'm not going to be convinced that they're better than Virginia, who lost to UMBC. They're better than a Tennessee team they beat. They're better than Miami, who they beat at the final second.
I don't think that this is the most perfect system, but I think it's the best one you can get. Every system's going to be flawed.
I mean, it brings in the money. It brings in the ratings. You can't abandon it. I'm just asking.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think there would be a viable alternate option to it because you have 64 teams. You can't play 3 games each. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would just take way too long.
Well, if you cut it down,
then people are going to be mad.
People are mad either way.
I mean, yeah, I guess you can't please everybody.
But no, I see what you're saying. I don't want it to change at all.
No, I'm just saying, like, there's a...
I feel like, honestly, in sports, college basketball is probably the hardest one to win a national title because one bad game in the tournament derails your whole season.
One sick player, one injured player, one whatever, you're done.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess that's just... I don't know, because, like, you could say that about any sport, though. Even baseball, even though we have, like, more than one game for our championship and stuff like that, I mean, one bad start could define your whole season.
Mm-hmm.
Like you, Darvish, it's arguable to say that was the reason that the Dodgers lost the World Series because he had 2 terrible starts.
No, I see what you're saying. And I'm not holding John Calipari as accountable for one title because I know it's that tough. But in terms of the way everybody says he's just top tier of coaches, in my mind he's overrated.
Yeah,
he's not a Coach K.
I could see that because, I mean, I do think that there's more success to be had with the type of talent that you have come through. I think comparing him to Butch Jones is a little extreme, but I do agree. I would agree saying that he's overrated. But yeah. I think where you lose me and probably going to lose some other
Butch
people
Jones?
is Butch because my thing is here's the thing. You got overrated coaches, right? You got John Calipari. Then you got bad coaches like Hugh Jackson. Then you got 40 feet of crap. And then you got Butch Jones.
Well, here's why I say Butch Jones. It's because Butch Jones was able to recruit. Everybody knows that. He's horrible in game. Butch Jones inherited a 19th ranked recruiting class at Tennessee in 2012, and then in 2013 they had 25th ranked, which was his first season. He didn't get a full recruiting class. But then In 2014, he jumps up to 7. 2015 jumps up to 4, and then falls to 14 in 2016. Now, those are not bad recruiting classes in terms of football. And the players, he brought in a lot of talent, like Khalil McKenzie, Kyle Phillips, Alvin Kamara, Shaw Tuttle, Drew Richmond, Jack Jones, Darren Kirkland Jr., Juwan Jennings, Quentin Dormady, Josh Malone, Jalen Hurd, Dylan Bates, Derek Barnett, Nigel Warrior, Jarrett Garantano, Jonathan Kongbo, and Daniel Batuli. And that are just some of them. And really, the only one who developed was Derek Barnett. Alvin Kamara is doing great in New Orleans, but Butch Jones didn't even want to start him over Jalen Hurd. That's what I'm getting at.
But see, that's what I'm saying. That the level of incompetence of Butch Jones is not comparable to the shortcomings of John Calipari, because that's what it is. Like, John Calipari is a competent coach. He just may not be the best coach. Butch Jones,
He's just more, in my opinion, John Calipari is a recruiter. He coaches. Don't get me wrong, he coaches, but instead of coaching his players up, he just rides their talent.
yeah, maybe there's not a lot of development of what's already there. Maybe he's just trying to win based off of what he's got. Maybe he's like a submissive type coach, you know?
And I understand in college basketball you only have 1 year. And I don't see Calipari wanting to be submissive, but
No, I mean submissive as in the terms of like if he has guys coming through the program, like somebody like DeMarcus Cousins or something like that, who's already very well established. Maybe he doesn't coach them as much as other guys because he thinks they can learn on their own.
and that's nowhere to coach.
Yeah, but I mean, even you got to think though, even like a small detail, like thinking that Anthony Davis would know when to not get a rebound and when to get a rebound, when to box out, when not to box out. Like something so little like that you may not think you need to coach. He may miss little things like that, and that's why they don't win championships. But like I said, I just think the incompetence of Butch Jones is so much deeper than other people think it is, that I don't know if you could really compare many coaches to him because of how much of an anomaly he was.
Yeah. And I'm grateful Butch Jones hasn't had more time in Tennessee. As a Tennessee fan, I'm grateful. But I feel like if he had more time in Tennessee, maybe they're even more comparable. Because if you are able to accumulate so much talent, eventually that talent will perform more time. I mean, eventually.
He went 0-14, 0-16, whatever it was in SEC games. I don't know.
Oh, I know. This year was absolutely horrible. It sucked.
But
It
that's what I'm
sucked to
saying.
be a Tennessee fan.
I don't think there's any level of talent that would have made Butch Jones look like a good coach. I think you could give Butch Jones the Eagles roster and he'd still lose the Super Bowl.
I could give him the Eagles roster. He probably don't make the playoffs.
Exactly. Especially with Carson Wentz going down.
Yeah.
No knock on Nick Foles.
Well,
obviously.
I see what you're saying. I mean, I can understand where some people aren't getting my argument. And like I said, I'm not saying Calipari's
Bringing the
Butch
idea out.
Jones.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying there is similarities.
Yeah.
100%.
I could feel that. I mean, I could agree. I guess it's just like sometimes you got to worry about like the language you use. You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes it can get. But I mean, I guess I agree with that. Kind of overhyped, and he doesn't really come up to perform like he should, or maybe he thinks he's a little bit better than he actually is. You know, something like that. Kind of like my least favorite baseball player, Jose Bautista.
Yeah.
Still unsigned, hopefully forever, Jose Bautista. You know, they came out and they said that Jose Bautista was entertaining multiple one-year offers from teams. And my question to that is why? Even for somebody like your Braves who need outfield depth just to have it, why would you sign Jose Bautista?
I think people still see the name and think of his 3 years of glory.
What
That's
name?
what you want to call it.
What name?
Joey Bats, Jose Bautista. 20
20 years from now, nobody's going to remember him for anything except for bat flip and then teaching us that Ruben Odor was a switch hitter.
But honestly, when you hear the name Jose Bautista, you think of bat flip.
That's it.
And you think in 3 years, I mean, I think of him hitting bombs. But
I think bat flip,
they're
crybaby, overhyped. I think of all these things. The
Yeah.
only fan base
I'm
that loves
talking
Jose
about-
Bautista is the Blue Jays.
yeah, and I'm talking about just the average baseball fan or somebody who doesn't really watch baseball until October. They just think of the bat flip. Whether they think it was disrespectful, they thought it was awesome.
And before
Regardless, that's
anybody-
what they think of.
And before anybody tries to come at me, I'm not saying I dislike Jose Bautista because of the whole scuffle and the bat flip. I'm completely taking out my Texas Rangers biased here, and I'm just like calling a spade a spade. He's an overhyped baseball player who's not as good as he or other people in that organization or fans think that he is.
I mean, look at his stats. His stats alone tell me he's not that great.
For his career, his batting average is .250. His on-base percentage is .362. His slugging is .480. In 14 years, he has 331 home runs. Now, I'm not saying that 300 home runs is a slouch, but...
Yeah, but through 14 years, and considering he got 54 of them in his breakout year in 2010...
Yep. And then 2 other seasons
I would expect that number to be a little bit higher.
That's what I'm saying. And when you hit 40 home runs 3 years, I expect more than 300 home runs. He got almost, I would say, like maybe 30% of his home runs in 3 years of his career. You know what I mean? And he was coming off in his breakout year. He had 54, and like I said, he only had 3 years of 40 plus. And after he was a free agent 2 years ago, at the age of 35, he asked for a 5-year, $150 million contract. He wanted the same amount of money that the Cubs just paid Yu Darvish.
Yeah. And going back to what you said about those 3 years being 30% of at least his total home runs, there's no doubt in my mind, because in 2010 alone, when he hit 54, that's just over 16% of his entire career.
So he got 16% of his home runs off 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's just... And so, like, my thing is you got to compare him to guys like Russell Branyan, Adam Dunn,
Richie Sexton in terms of strikeouts.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying.
Gary Sheffield.
He averages about 1 strikeout per hit he gets over his career numbers. And, I mean, his defense is okay. He's got a cannon, but, I mean... you can stick anybody in the outfield with a cannon. I mean, Nelson Cruz. I mean,
Jeff Francoeur back whenever his playing days.
Yeah, but Jeff Francoeur was more of a complete player than I believe Jose Bautista is.
I completely agree.
But
the
like,
problem
you look
with
at a guy
Francoeur
like,
was he fell off at the plate.
Yeah. You look at a guy like Nelson Cruz. He's got a cannon, but his fielding is terrible.
Exactly.
That's why he's a DH now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But like, even Nelson Cruz doesn't strike out as much as he does. And so, like, you have these people that, like, overhype this Jose Bautista situation, and they're saying, oh, my God, I can't believe Jose Bautista isn't on a team yet. I can.
Yeah, he's won too much money.
And his attitude is ridiculous. And I'll say this right now. The Blue Jays, as a team, led by John, even though John Gibbons is from Texas, led by John Gibbons, are collectively the biggest group of crybabies in Major League Baseball.
You put Vlad Jr. in that outfield right now, he outperforms Jose Bautista probably at least double.
The only person that he probably wouldn't outperform in that outfield is Kevin Pillar. And that's just because he's a defensive wizard.
Mm.
And so, like, but my thing is, and I mean, also, quick tidbit, Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero Jr., I feel like and Marcus Stroman, guys like that, I feel like they're going to change that culture. But to get away from
Stroman's a dog.
To get away
I
from
love
that
Stroman.
Crybaby mentality, you know. But you look at it, guys like Josh Donaldson, Jose Bautista, Justin Smoke, not so much. But you know what I'm saying? Like, those guys, it's all they do is cry about calls. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, you're telling me the going rate for a 35-year-old who's not that good, has never been that good, had 1 or 2 breakout years, and is a crybaby. You tell me the going rate is $150 million over 5 years?
No.
You're going to tell me that's what he's worth? That's what Jose Bautista thinks he's worth?
And to only really have 3 top-tier dominant years, I'm not
and
paying
only
you
2
that.
of them are really top tier because besides on the season he hit 54 home runs, he still only hit like 260-something, 250-something.
Exactly.
He's only hit over 300 one time in his career.
And I know you said 35. He's 37 years old. What is he expecting, a 4 or 5
Well,
year
that's what I'm
deal?
saying. Even when he was at 35, 2 years ago when he was a free agent again,
Yeah.
like, did you expect to get $150 million? And listen, I know teams like the Orioles, even the Braves, teams like the Oakland Athletics, guys like that, those teams that are just trying to, like, get in that rebuilding phase, you know good and well, they've sent him like, hey, man, we'll give you 1 year, $6 million deal.
No, he probably thinks it's too cheap.
And he goes, $6 million? Come on now. This man thinks he's going to get a double-digit contract.
He don't deserve one.
And
I
I'm
mean,
like,
you gotta separate. You gotta look at stats. There's more to baseball than home runs. There's more to baseball than mash and taters.
yeah, but here's my thing. Here's my thing, though. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, having a career 250 batting average, I'm not paying you top dollar
Well,
for
here's
your
the thing.
position unless you've had a consistent.
Well, and other guys too,
Several
like
years.
Jim Tomey. I know Jim Tomey. You know, he's prone to strikeouts. His career average was about 270, but he also had 600 home runs, and his on base percentage was over 400 for his career.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so, and when you're talking about more than baseball, more than stats, even look at his attitude. That's the biggest thing for me. Is because people thought that when that whole Texas and Blue Jays beef went down, people thought I was mad at Jose Bautista for the bat flip. I don't care. Make baseball fun again. You know what I'm saying? The thing that I cared about was they were throwing beer bottles in our dugout at our players, throwing stuff onto the field. You know what I'm saying? And he perpetuated that. Like, he made that even worse. You know what I mean? And so it's just like the attitude that he has and the way he carries himself is not okay. If
And
he comes out and he does Adrian Beltre numbers, you know what I'm saying, where he hits, you know,
At his
285,
age.
285 to 300 a year, hits, you know, 25 plus home runs a year, on base percentage up around 400 every year. You do that, you know what I'm saying? Like not Jose Altuve, sorry, Albert Pujols. He's even plateaued a little bit, but he still hits 30 home runs a year, drops in RBIs like he's a machine.
There's a level of consistency you have to keep, and Jose Bautista's not got it.
He's one of the most inconsistent baseball players there is. And he didn't even he was like 10 years in the league before he even hit 30 plus home runs. And you're telling me you want
All of a sudden, you think you're a $100 million player
baseballs are juiced?
at 35? Yes, they're juiced. Don't get me started on this.
Yeah, I'm just, it's just because, like, maybe you see because, a regular guy can get good for a year.
Yeah.
Justin Smoke had a breakout year last year. He hit like 280, and he had like 30 home runs. You know what I'm saying?
It's a matter of keeping it,
exactly, and that's what he's
keeping
not,
that level of play.
That's not what he's not. That's what he's not doing. Like somebody, like another fellow free agent who's still unsigned, who keeps his level of play up, is Greg Holland.
Yeah, how
I
has this
can't-
man not got a contract?
They're so, like, you're telling me, for a team, like, I'll even throw out a big name here, 2 big names,
Uh-oh.
the Yankees.
Yeah.
Okay, Aroldis Chapman has fallen off just a little bit, at least last season. Okay, because people are finally realizing, okay, this man throws the same fastball, it just gets to me a little quicker. So people are reacting to it and they're mashing taters off of it. You telling me you don't need another proven closer in there in case he messes up?
At least a setup man?
The Houston Astros.
Oh, no doubt in my mind, Holland is more consistent than Ken Giles.
Yeah, he's he is probably more consistent than anybody they have in their bullpen.
And I'm not knocking Giles at all. He came up big. He came up big for Houston last year. But if I have the opportunity to go get somebody who I feel like is proven, like Greg Holland, I'm going to go get him.
And
especially if I'm trying to repeat. You know how hard that is to do in baseball?
Yep. And see, even somebody like the Rangers, like John Daniels came out and said that he couldn't be more clear that we're no longer acquiring any players through free agency. But I mean, there's a team that needs one. Look at a team like the Nationals. Like what's going on?
The Phillies are trying to come up. I mean, add another proven veteran to that young pitching core you've got going.
Exactly. And people and the only knock on Greg Holland was that he was coming back from Tommy John surgery. And he missed the entire 2016 season after the Royals cut him. And it seems like this man never catches a break because after the Royals cut him and he was a free agent, it took him forever to sign with the Rockies. You know what I'm saying? It took him forever to sign with a team, even when he was coming off an injury. And then even you got teams that have marketably upgraded their team, such as the Cubbies. You know what I mean? Their closer, Wade Davis, he goes to the Rockies, so why don't they just sign him?
I mean, I'm not sure if that's even considered a downgrade,
Exactly.
in my opinion.
Wade Davis is good, but maybe Greg Holland could be. They pitched together in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. Him, Wade Davis, and Kelvin Herrera were switching off on being set up in closers.
And for people who think maybe we're over-talking Greg Holland, Texas got some names for you that, honestly, you're going to be surprised.
Okay, so first of all, we'll just say his career ERA is 2.60. Okay, 2.60. That's pretty good. Like, as a reliever, you might want to see it a little bit lower. But, I mean, it also was a little inflated by by the thin air in Denver, and he gave up a couple bombs in Kansas City as well. But
that's career. That's not even talking about his recent strand of clothing.
oh yeah,
The 4 years
exactly.
he's been full-time closer.
Greg Holland has had 4 years of full-time closing experience. Okay, so what I did as a little fun factoid was I took other
Prominent.
well, no, we'll say decently okay guys. You might know some of these names. Okay, these guys are. I mean, they're pretty okay. They made a name for themselves. You know.
I mean, no big deal.
They might not be anything special, but through his first 4 years as a full-time closer, he had 166 saves.
And how many did he have last year?
41.
41.
So 100, and he consistently stays above 30 saves in these 4 years. Okay, obviously. So,
and through these 4 years, Tech's saying he consistently stays above 30 saves. If you take this, we're going to do a little math right here on live radio.
quick maths.
So 166 saves divided by 4 for 4 years. You're getting 41.5 saves a year.
And that's what he stayed about. That's what he stayed around.
Yep.
And so we're gonna give you a couple names that you might know. Okay.
Now, this first one, I'm not sure if you'll know or not.
So this first one, he kind of got marred by injuries a little bit, you know, but he was still one of the most dominant closers in the game. And if you call yourself a baseball fan, you don't know this name, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
I don't know if you're a baseball fan.
Through the first 4 years of Eric Gagne's career,
And-
he had 160 saves.
And honestly, the list just gets worse. The names just get worse.
Then we got Mariano Rivera.
No.
Mo? Had 160 saves through his first 4 years.
So let me do a little fact checking. So Greg Holland at 166 through his first 4 years as a full-time closer. Yep, that's more than Mariano Rivera. That's
And
more
Eric
than
Gagne.
Eric Gagne.
The highest number on this list comes next by probably one of the greatest closers in the game who kind of fell off, Mr. K-Rod himself. He had 194 saves through his first 4 years as a committed
That
full-time
is
closer.
absolutely crazy. It's 62 of them came from 1 year.
194. Then this guy, I mean,
I love him. I'll always love him.
I guess he's okay. Like, I mean, he throws a baseball kind of well sometimes. Greg Kimbrell had 100. He has 185 through his first 4 years as a closer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, arguably,
It's between this guy and Mariano. No
arguably
doubt.
the best closer in the history of Major League Baseball.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. No big deal.
No big doubt. No big doubt. Trevor Hoffman had 130 saves.
Trevor Hoffman, people.
So,
I mean,
the only two people he doesn't beat out on this list are Kimbrel and K-Rod. And that's because they were just on completely different levels. They came, and the thing that you have to also realize here is
they came up on a winning team.
Well, not even that.
For instance, Kimbrel was coming up on a Braves team that was making the playoffs, and they were having to use him to get these games to get into the wild card games.
Oh yeah, but not even that though. Like, if you look at guys like Hoffman, even Mo, even though Mo was a little bit late, and Eric Gagne, these guys came about before the closer role was really revolutionized like it is today. So you got Kimbrel and K-Rod coming up through the system when they knew they were going to be closers. These weren't failed starters or starters turned closers or relief pitchers. These were guys that these teams specifically got because they wanted them to be their closer. Because the opportunity for saves now, with how the game is managed, is exponentially more than what it was when Hoffman and Eric G and Mo started. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm not taking anything away from them because they still got to go get the saves. I'm just saying they're probably in an opportunity to get maybe 15 to 20 more saves a year than these other guys are.
Yeah.
But even then, this guy's still sitting in the middle of the pack with some of the greatest closers
Ever.
to ever play the game. And he's sitting at home on the couch not listening to this radio show.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And there's other names we didn't mention that he's right there with. He's
Lidge.
right up there with Brad Lidge, Billy Wagner.
And I mean, it's just it's ridiculous to think that a guy with this resume,
It's still
but like why do you think he's not, I just with the level of need for closers in today's game, and he is at the very top of a very short list of consistently great closers. I don't understand why he's still sitting at home.
I don't understand it. It absolutely blows my mind. I don't know if maybe there's an injury we know nothing about. There's got to be something. maybe he's wanting too much money, but at the same time, he would come off his price.
Of course.
So there's no reason for this guy to not be with a team right now.
And it's just one of those things that baffles me. Like, I was baffled as to why Jake Arrieta took so long to sign.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And now he's
but even then, even with the Jake Arrieta argument, he still was only good starting like 3 years ago. You know?
I mean, if you look at his time before he broke out
when he was
with
in
the Cubs,
Baltimore,
he's nothing special.
and that's what I'm saying. Greg Holland, since he assumed the role after his first year of being a full-time closer, he has been on the money. He has been there.
And you got to remember, he's pitching in Colorado, where the balls just fly out of the park.
And does that and with him not signing, and with Jake Arrieta taking so long to sign, with other guys like formidable guys still, like Jason Worth just signed a minor league contract with the Mariners. Is there a problem with free agency in baseball?
I'd like to say yeah.
My biggest
And
thing,
I'm not sure if it's on the owners, the GMs, or if it's on the players.
I think because here's the first thing. I think the biggest problem with the free agent system in Major League Baseball is the compensatory pick.
Well,
because if you sign a deal for these top tier guys like Holland, Arrieta, Darvish, and stuff like that, I think the threshold's like $50 million or something like that. If you sign these guys over that amount of money, that team that offered them a qualifying offer, they lose a pick.
well, I feel like one of the biggest problems in baseball too is you don't really have a set salary cap.
You got
Like
the
you
luxury
do-
tax.
Well, yeah, you have the luxury tax, but that doesn't keep teams from going over the cap. Like in NFL, I know they don't have the fully guaranteed contracts like baseball does, but they do have the salary cap. And therefore that kind of control, which it goes up on a year-to-year basis, but that kind of controls where guys' markets is, so they can't say, well, you know what? I believe I should get $300 million. Like Bryce Harper's coming out wanting $400+ million.
Well, Bryce Harper has never said that he wanted $400+ million. That's just people, you know what I'm saying? They're saying like him, like Manny Machado are trying to get that much. But like, I believe that it's a revenue problem because like you got these teams like the Marlins who are tanking, and they're still part of the revenue service, the revenue streaming service, so they still get money for losing.
Mm.
And so when you have these guys who, like for instance, Mike Moustakas, right? He was worth more than $6.5 million on a 1-year contract. But I forget, I'll have to...
Well, you got to remember, he was also offered a pretty big deal by Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
Turns it down.
Oh, yeah, like that was partly his fault. Like I'm not disagreeing. But I can't remember. I'll have to tag it when we post this up. I'll find it and whoever said it. But there was a guy saying that he was a baseball player, and he said that when he was playing, when they would get contracts, they were getting paid based off of what they've already done, not what they're projected to do during the contract, which I can kind of agree with. But you give Albert Pujols a 10-year contract, you're going to have to look at what he's going to be able to do at the end when he's 40 years old.
Yeah. And I know how you brought up the Marlins tanking. I think Derek Jeter is taking too much heat. For what he's doing.
do I.
Because he's a man with a plan. He knows how to win. It's going to get straightened out. You got to remember, he doesn't have the money that former owner had. You know, you've got to cut the payroll.
Yeah. And people want to scrutinize him, but he got rid of the biggest contract in baseball.
Yeah, the contract that honestly changed the payday, the definition of a payday in the Major League Baseball.
It's an albatross of a contract.
Yeah.
Now, if like I said, if he continues to mash 60+, even 50+ taters a year in a stacked lineup with 100+ RBIs every year, he's gonna be worth all the money. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know.
And in case you're just now tuning in, this is Absurdity Sports. I'm Chase Hope.
I'm Tex Armstreet. You're listening on 88.5 FM The Nest. You can hear us live on 88.5 FM The OG. Online at tennesseetech.edu/WTTU and any other residence halls thanks to our partnership with Res Life. As always, thanks for listening. And so I believe he's going to be worth the money. But like people are trying to give him heat for all this. But I mean, look at the market. You also have to think, you have a guy like Manny Machado who's parts him, Yonder Alonso, and John Jay. They're called the Miami Boys. He's a free agent at the end of the year, and he's from Miami.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of prospects coming up.
And you think if you just go out and you sign Machado, you bring Machado home, you can have a whole marketing campaign on that alone. And you're talking about bringing in millions of dollars.
And think about the guys he could bring with him, though. That's the thing. Because if you take Giancarlo out, but you keep some of the other guys they have, like Luis Brinson is coming up. He's supposed to be really good. Their pitching staff is getting back to where they were at before the death of Jose Fernandez.
And honestly, that's tragic.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so it just all tied, like, he's doing great. And people, but it just all ties into the problem with baseball is people,
They're too quick to judge.
Exactly.
And you got to understand, Derek Jeter is not one of these guys who has billions of dollars.
When I think that he's just aimlessly going out here and making moves to make moves for the sake of making moves.
No, he's doing it because you've got to shed the payroll. You've got to get the revenue coming in. You've got to make the profits before you can start spending this big-time money on big-time players.
And I'll tell you what, he was at a golf tournament or something like he was at a sporting event during the winter meetings because nobody was entertaining. Nobody was trying to give him what he was asking for some of those players. And so people were scrutinizing him for being at a sporting event. I'm like, he can't live his life. He can't go do things because he owns a team. Like, people think that owners of teams and baseball players should just be working 24/7 and should never sleep. Like, if you're not working on your craft at 4 o'clock in the morning, you're dumb.
And I feel like that goes for every sport. But it's really been intensified with this whole Derek Jeter Miami Marlins situation.
Yeah, and it's also the deal that he got for Christian Yelich. It was one heck of a deal.
You've got to let the man go.
Luis Brinson, you get guys like that are coming up that could help the team for the future.
Yeah.
It blows my mind how many people just think, because people thought that the Cubbies guy, he was with the Red Sox too. They thought he was just the GM. They just thought Theo Epstein. They just thought he was making moves to make moves sometimes. But
and
look,
he's one of the greatest. Chicago.
He's one of the greatest baseball minds in the history of baseball. He stopped the curse of the Bambino and the curse of the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? People they're just too quick to judge, and it kind of goes with the baseball tradition though. With, like you said, with Moose, where he turned down that contract. Like, I'm too good for that, and now you're back playing for 6.5.
Congratulations, man! Shot yourself in the foot.
You know what I'm saying? I think that it's got to change the outlook on baseball, and I think Rob Manfred is a really good way to turn that around. Because if you don't have a good commissioner, you're not going to have good players that want to be there. You know what I mean?
No, I completely understand.
Like look at the state of the NFL. They had one of the most absurd rules because their league owner was ridiculously dumb. Incompetent Roger Goodell. But I think they got it right. Catch rule.
So you're liking the new rules?
Yeah. The big one for me is the catch rule.
Yeah.
I think it's huge because, one,
it simplifies what a catch is. I mean, it's ridiculous that you have to slow down and spend 5 to 10 minutes to see if somebody caught it. Because if you're going to slow it down and look frame by frame, you're going to be able to sway your mind to think, oh, he didn't catch it or he did.
Oh, yeah. There's a big argument in the sports now with baseball and football using replay so much that if you've got to slow it down, if it's a foul, or if it's a targeting call, or if it's a catch, and you got to slow it down frame by frame to see if it is, you should call it the way that the umpire or the referee called it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but, I mean, it's kind of true.
But, all right, so Tex, I'll let you read this rule.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about it.
So, these are the 3 ways a catch is now a catch, okay? The first one is establishing control, obviously. The second one is 2 feet or another body part. So I'm guessing like maybe 1 foot and a hand, or like if you catch it and you land on your butt in the end zone, but your feet go out of bounds. I guess that's what they're trying to get at.
Yeah, I wish they would. I wish they would have went more in depth. I wish I could see more in depth about in terms of the sideline. Because is it still 2 feet? What if you have a foot and a hand, or what if you
just have a hand? What if you dive out of bounds, but your hand can still reach inbounds?
And your hand hits before your body does outbound?
Because that'll change the level of catches we'll be able to see because people will be able to manipulate the sideline and the end zone and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think that's what they're talking about. Is just like, so like if you fall down and your back touches, but then you roll backwards and your feet don't. I think that's what they're, because there was too much emphasis put on the feet part of it. So I think that's what they're trying to cut down on. And then also a third is what they call a football move. So Des Bryant, the catch that he had against Green Bay.
The non-catch.
Yes. I don't really care. I don't like Des Bryant. I can call it whatever he wants. The 3 steps that he took, that's now a catch. He still would have been short of a touchdown, but under this new ruling, that would have been a catch.
So would Calvin Johnson back in 2010, Jesse James this past season.
Another football move would be the Jesse James, where he reaches and or extends. So that move he made at the end, even though he hadn't been touched and his legs were down, that move that he made, that's a football move.
Solidifies that it's a catch.
Yeah, exactly, because he's established control and then he's moving the ball. And then the third part of it is a little weird. It says, or the ability to perform such act, talking about the football move.
That's what I think is going to cause a lot of controversies.
But I think they may clear that up going forward.
Yeah.
There may, because obviously people are going to be asking a lot of questions about it. There's going to be a lot of vagueness about it going forward, so they're going to have to address it. And I'm hoping just some crazy something happens on week 1 where that part comes into play and then they have to specify it.
Yeah, because, and I think they did a good job of simplifying it down so it's not so complicated. But I feel like on that part, you got to have a little more detail for that part alone. But another huge rule they're adopting is the targeting rule, which you've seen that in college football. And a good buddy of ours, Curtis Evans, he runs a Facebook group, All Sports All Day. We're both members. Great group. You want to learn about sports? Join the group, All Sports All Day on Facebook.
Go check them out. It's a great group.
So the NFL owners passed a new targeting rule where lowering your head to initiate contact with the helmet is now a foul. And Curtis Evans, I agreed with his post 100%. He says, and I quote, "Probably in the minority when I say that I like this rule, and that's cool. However, the only way to make football safer is by making the consequences steeper. Because you have all this going on the past several years about CTE and the injuries and how short of a football career it is. These are moves the NFL has to make."
So here's two things that happened just this last season that bring this quote-unquote targeting rule into, it'll cut down on some of this, okay? So one, the Kiko Alonso hit on Joe Flacco, where Joe Flacco's sliding, giving himself up, and Kiko Alonso absolutely murders him, okay? That should be, could you say it's a 15-yard penalty? Is that what you said?
No, I said, just says that NFL owners pass new targeting rule where lowering the head to initiate contact with the helmet is a foul, but you can also get ejected under this rule.
Okay, yeah. So here's my thing, with that. So you make a steeper yard penalty, right, for somebody being stupid on defense. Okay, then you also fine the crap out of them. And if the call's questionable, that's where you have a committee to make the decision.
Yep.
That Kiko Alonso hit was dirty, okay? And this actual targeting rule won't apply to this, but I'm hoping that like the fines and penalties coming along with like dirty hits in the NFL will come along with this. That Rob Gronkowski hit.
Yes, on Tre'Davious White,
yes,
cornerback for Buffalo.
Could have ended his career.
Definitely. That was absolutely that's one of the filthiest plays I've ever seen.
And here's the thing that people aren't even talking about, though, that I don't think people realize. They're just worried about his head hitting the ground. What about Gronk hitting laying on his back?
Yeah.
What if he would have slipped a disc in his back, or he would have had to have a neck transfusion like Prince Fielder did with baseball? You know what I'm saying? What if he would have moved something around or like cracked something in his shoulders?
Or what if you move him a certain way, it tears his ACL, MCL? You know, that's almost ruined Teddy Bridgewater's career. We still have yet to see if Teddy Bridgewater is still the same Teddy that he was before.
Exactly. And so I think the NFL is finally starting to get some of this stuff right, because a lot of this stuff is just common sense law. And the NFL, run by Roger Goodell, doesn't have a lot of common sense because he's so incompetent.
Yeah, the guy who wanted $20 million in...
No, he wanted $40 million. He wanted a $20 million raise. He wanted $40 million.
Well, I'm just saying he wants
a private plane
and access to the jet for life.
Like, are you kidding me?
What a joke.
You know what I'm saying? So but I think some of this stuff is coming out of his hands now. I feel like this is some other people making these decisions, and these two rules are great. They need to clarify that last part on the catch rule that we were talking about. But Curtis Evans is right. Upping the penalties and the fines, and also a big one that was passed too is replay officials. The head of the replay officials they now have the ability to throw players out as well. So if there's a big fight like that Talib and Crabtree fight that they had, if they saw something the referees didn't say, they couldn't say, hey, you need to throw that guy out. But now they can. They can point out certain things to let the referees know, hey, like this guy
like
needs to be
something that
tossed
might have
out.
happened off camera.
Exactly. Something, to where the referees won't even see it, or there might not even be a replay of it. They can see that kind of stuff. And so with the NFL getting this stuff right, I think that the NFL might be a little funner to watch.
Yep, and you know what else? Speaking of getting right and fun, how about Johnny Manziel? Can he solidify this comeback? I hope so.
And he said he recently did an interview, and he's talking about his opportunity in the CFL and stuff. And he said, I've got a guaranteed contract there if I want to go play there. Because the reporter asked him if this was his last chance to play football, organized football. He said, well, I've got a guaranteed contract in the CFL. And he said something that was really smart. He was like, I come out here, I can throw this football all day long, but I don't know what these scouts are saying. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know who they're talking to. I don't even know if my name gets brought up in the big room. He said, I'm just trying to get back. I'm trying to, the gifts that God has given me and the ability that I have, I know that I could compete at a high level, and I'm just trying to get back there. So if I don't make it back to the NFL, yeah, I'll be upset, but I'll just take my talents north of the border.
Yeah.
And then he had those somewhat controversial tweets with Colin Kaepernick, saying he no longer liked the comparisons. And it's a series of tweets that when Chase reads them off here, they really show the spiritual and mental growth of a man that used to be so battered and bruised.
Yeah. So Johnny Manziel, he tweets, and he's got in a thread, this will probably cause an uproar, but I'm tired of the Colin Kaepernick versus myself comparisons and anger. Cap is doing amazing things right now, changing lives and donating millions of dollars. His impact off the field from a societal standpoint is legendary and straight admirable. Standing up for people who often don't get heard and for a race that continually deals with problem after problem in this country for centuries. This world we live in is absolutely crazy, and I believe that I believe what he's doing has an amazing impact. The fact of the matter are the reason he's not being signed are non-football based. The guy took a team to the Super Bowl and continuously wreaked havoc on the NFC West and the league. Maybe he had a bad year 2 years ago, but he's not a bad player, and that's a fact. In my opinion, the guy still has a lot in the tank, but it's not my place to say what he wants to do with his career. All I can speak for is myself and trying to turn my life around from the depths it was in. God bless and have a great Saturday. I rock with you, Kaepernick. You've always been good to me, and I appreciate that. All the best in your journey, my friend, wherever that takes you.
That is not the Johnny Manziel that the NFL knew when he was with the Browns.
Not at all. That's not the Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M.
This is a man now. This isn't a boy stuck in a man's body. This is a man, and the way that he's using his mind to actually think about the things that he's doing. I fully believe that if he makes a comeback, which he should, I think he will.
He has all the talent in the world.
I think he's going to be able to have a decent career. Especially if he goes, they're saying he's being linked to the New England Patriots.
Yep, they talked to him. There was people with the Patriots
before
organization
and after his pro day,
talking to him at the Texas A&M Pro Day where he threw.
Yeah.
And he didn't throw to slouches. He threw to wide receivers like Christian Kirk, who's projected to be a first-round pick, possibly the first wide receiver off the board.
Yeah.
And people are still impressed by Manziel. It's just a matter of, can you take the heat? Are you willing to take the heat?
And the thing is...
And I feel like he's eliminated a lot of the heat.
And here's the thing, because I feel like his comeback is more convincing than Josh Gordon's. Shout out to Josh Gordon. He's doing things. He's turning himself around as well, trying to at least. But if Josh Gordon, who I feel like some of his things were a little bit worse than Johnny Manziel's were, if he can make a comeback to an organization that let Manziel go, I feel like Manziel can make a comeback with any team.
And we were talking before the show, and Tex, you had a great point. Talking about with the Browns, there was no leadership.
Yeah, like when he went there, like that's why some people are cautious about Baker Mayfield going there, because Baker Mayfield can be a bit of a hothead as well. When he goes there, they were looking for him to be the leader. They didn't really have. I mean, they had Joe Thomas obviously,
and he had a coach in Pettin that didn't believe in him.
Yeah, exactly. And so like
the fans were calling for him to be the leader.
Yeah, when you have a coach, when you have fans who know nothing about how the team works, you have a coach who's incompetent. My favorite word of the day today, and you have a team with very little to no leadership. Joe Thomas is about the only guy that comes to my mind, unless I'm missing, just obviously missing somebody. But I don't think I am. But even one guy can't stir a whole locker room.
Yeah.
And so you have no veteran leadership. And I tell this, I will tell this to the day I die. Manziel got drafted by somebody, even the Texans, because I know we needed a quarterback at that time. Even if he would have been drafted there, he would have been drafted to the Titans
Or the Cowboys.
Because
they were linked to him. Behind Romo?
If he would have been drafted to any team that had a bunch of veteran leadership, he would have still been in the league right now.
Yeah.
Because they would have cut all of that party boy nonsense out.
And
You look at Rob Gronkowski, he's a huge party boy. But when he gets to the field and he's prepping for games, they cut all of that nonsense out.
Yep.
Because he knows the difference between real life and football.
Yep. And I feel like Manziel, if he is able to get a deal done with New England, being behind Tom Brady and being with Belichick and an owner like Robert Kraft, that is the best situation for a guy like Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, to have
Because the Patriots put you in positions to win. Look at Jacoby Brissett,
Yep.
Matt Castle,
Garoppolo.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
And so when you and the thing is the biggest thing for him, the Patriots, would be the sustained credibility, the sustained success, and the sustained accountability. Like their team is super structured. You know what I mean? It's on the money, super structured. So he's gonna know what's expected of him. He's gonna know what he's got to do. He's gonna know who's gonna be around. He knows what to expect from people and what they expect of him. And I feel like that's the biggest thing for him, because people still will call him a prima donna when he gets there. They'll call him a crybaby. They'll say he's not worth the money. They'll say he's not worth the draft pick that he got when he was there.
And the dude said he's totally content being on a practice squad. That tells you that he's not looking at the money. He's looking at the opportunity to play.
He's trying to play.
He knows he spoiled a great opportunity that most kids live their whole lives wishing they could have and never get.
And he's just trying to get what he's worth.
Yeah. You tell me Johnny Manziel's not a quarterback in the NFL. He most certainly 100% is.
He's better. He'd probably be better than 14 to 17 of the quarter.
Let him get in training camp, get in shape. Johnny Manziel has everything you want. He can extend plays with his legs. He has the arm. He's not the most accurate passer, but he gets the job done.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know why you wouldn't want such a complete player on your team. Like, I don't understand. Like, right now, for instance, Odell Beckham Jr., the Giants are shopping one of their highest assets.
Yeah, for 2 first-rounders. Like,
you don't think they'll get it?
No. If I'm a team, I'm not giving up 2.
He said, no.
If I'm a team, I'm not giving up 2 first-rounders for a wide receiver. I don't care if it's Antonio Brown.
So
I'm not giving up 2 first-rounders.
That's ridiculous.
Because, listen, you're giving up 2 first-rounders? Who knows who you're missing out on? For one player? And the first round is where franchise players get drafted.
He's a top 5 wide receiver in the league.
Of course he is. And I'm not no discredit to Odell Beckham, but 2 first-rounders for a wide receiver is steep. Absolutely steep.
Well, here's my question to you. Okay? Look at a team like the San Francisco 49ers.
They have the 9th pick in the upcoming draft.
Okay, so they got they got a high draft pick this year, right?
So obviously, I know what you're gonna say.
Well, then let me say it. Let me finish. So they give up the 9th pick, right?
Yep.
And next year they're not going to be in the top 10 because they're going to win a bunch of ball games.
Okay.
So they give up the 20 to 32nd pick, somewhere around there, right?
Okay.
You're telling me you wouldn't pull the deal on a top 10 first pick and a late rounder for Odell Beckham Jr.?
No, I'm not. Because you know who you can draft at that 9th pick? You can get Calvin Ridley. You could get a Christian Kirk.
You're taking proven over probability.
I'm sticking with 2 first-round picks is what I'm doing. But I think Odell Beckham Jr. would be a great fit in San Francisco. Run it with Kyle Shanahan's offense, an elite weapon for Jimmy Garoppolo. Great fit. I think he'd be a great fit with the Los Angeles Rams, who's lost Sammy Watkins. You would have him along with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Great. But giving up 2 first-round picks is a lot. Because what if you pull this trade off, the injury bug bites, and you end up like the New York Giants this past year? They weren't supposed to be picking number 2.
Calculated risk. Same thing with the draft picks.
No, I completely understand. I'm just saying that's.
He is.
I mean, I'm a betting man, but I'm not betting that.
He is without a doubt, one of the most enigmatic receivers we've seen. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's so head and shoulders.
I mean, it's not like it's not like he doesn't, do ads for Head and Shoulders.
So, OBJ, Antonio Brown, Julio, and DeAndre Hopkins, those guys are head and shoulders above the rest of the league as far as the wide receiver core go. Who you shaking your head?
No, I'm not shaking my head. I'm just saying I ain't gonna say Head and Shoulders above.
I will.
I mean, I feel like obviously they're the top tier.
They're upper echelon.
No doubt about it. But I feel like the tier right under them have guys like Michael Thomas, Mike Evans.
Michael Thomas is overrated.
Okay, whatever. Michael Thomas,
but
Mike
you throw
Evans,
guys, Adam Thielen, you throw guys like that in there.
Stephon Diggs.
But these guys, I'm telling you, these guys are head and shoulders above. Antonio Brown was a unanimous.
Antonio Brown's the best wide receiver in the NFL.
I don't disagree with you.
I know. I mean, a lot of I see a lot of debates going on between him and Julio. Antonio Brown's a better wide receiver than Julio.
Yeah, and he's also been more successful. But also, speaking about OBJ, who's worth 2 first-round picks, they compare him to. This was in one of the sports groups we were in as well. They were talking about comparing him to Gronk or Brady, with their temper tantrums. And they're saying that because he hasn't,
Shane Davis of all sports all day.
They're saying that because he hasn't won anything, he doesn't have the ability to get mad. Because I feel like people overanalyze OBJ's actions because he is a little bit more outspoken than Tom Brady or Gronkowski is. But Gronkowski goes out and parties like OBJ does, so why doesn't Gronkowski get the same flack that OBJ does for partying? You know what I'm saying? He throws fits because he cares. He throws fits because he's passionate about winning football games. People think it's all about me, and I don't really think it is.
I just think it makes him kind of look like a diva.
But Tom Brady does the same stuff, so he's not a diva?
No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I'm saying under the light that the media has shed.
But is that his fault, though?
They portray him to be a diva.
But is that his fault, though? Because people want to blame OBJ for that. But, like, he's just because anytime we have a kid who likes to have fun, people try to hate on them.
Well, here's my thing.
Like, look at Deshaun Watson, okay? He was a kid having an amazing year before he got hurt, having fun, and people were still trying to hate on him.
Yep, and I understand, but these guys have to understand. Odell Beckham Jr. is a face, if not the face, of the New York Giants. Okay. And he's come up in a generation where us millennials, there's a bad light shed on our generation. There's a bad light on our actions where we feel entitled and yada, yada, yada. Like, at the end of the day, it's not fair. It's not right for OBJ, but he has to understand that the media is always going to be watching.
So my question to you is, why does he have to change who he is to make the media happy?
He shouldn't.
And that's what I'm saying. And that's all I'm saying is, like, people, they can say whatever they want about Tom Brady and Gronk or whatever, but he does the same things as some of those guys.
If Odell Beckham Jr. comes up in the same years as Tom Brady, and in that year, you don't hear a word.
We praise guys like Marshawn Lynch, one of my favorite football players. We praise guys like him for what he does, for his passion to win. Tom Brady throws his helmet and he yells at his teammates. And Tom Brady does something that Odell Beckham, to my knowledge, has never done. He even yelled at his coaches. Not Bad Billy, but, he still yells at his coaches. And so I'm just saying that Odell gets a bad rap from the media, and then people expect him that he's not worth that because of his attitude, but it's not really his fault. He's just a kid. And that's the thing. A lot of these people, they come from underprivileged areas, or they come from areas where winning wasn't always focused on. And that's all they want to do is win. OBJ has a chance to be one of the best wide receivers the game's ever seen. And he just wants to win and cement that legacy. And people call him a child and call him a crybaby and say that he's a diva because he cares about winning so much that he will let it all out. He'll throw his helmet. He'll get mad. He'll throw a fit on the sideline because that's how much winning pulses through his veins. Because if he was on your team and he did that, you'd be like, man, I admire that guy's grit. I love that he wants to win so much.
I mean, I love the fire he plays with. I love that he wants to win. I love that he's a true competitor. But there comes a point where you can't let your emotions get the best of you.
I agree with that.
You have to maintain a certain professionalism.
No, I get that. I think that the media's got to ease up a little bit, and I think the real sports fans, because I feel like I've said this before, that unpopular opinions.
You can't just base your opinion off what they're saying on ESPN.
Well, yeah, and
or what they're saying on Undisputed
and
Skip and
Skip.
Shannon Sharp.
Yeah, because unpopular. This is the thing, is this in sports, unpopular opinions and like stupid hot takes, they get the most attention because they're so ridiculous. And so I think it's just you got to weed through the stupid opinions and the people who really don't know anything and get to the true grit of the problem or the true grit of the scenario that's going on. And that's how you get guys to get what they're worth, and that's how you stop shedding bad light on guys like OPJ who really only care about winning.
Yep. And you want to hear a hot take? As we close this show out?
What's that?
This is the best sports show on the planet.
Absurdity Sports. How absurd are you?